2. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning and welcome to the Shred Show Live. We are part 2 of What Borrowers Want series, and I am so excited to have my new friend, Matt Dowd, hanging out with me. He is the VP of Product Management over at Ice Mortgage Technology, and he is here to share some inside look at really what's most important to today's borrowers, especially when it comes to selecting a lender and how you can really ensure that you're delivering in some of the top areas. And what we're going to be talking about today is how Ice Mortgage Technology can help you deliver a high-tech, high-touch interaction to create customers for life. Because we all know, as we spoke about last time on What Borrowers Want, is Ice Mortgage Technology's 2023 Borrower Insight Survey. And one of the details Matt and I are going to be discussing today is nearly 2/3. Yeah, that is right, ladies and gentlemen. 2/3 of all borrowers plan to seek new financing this next year. Home equity loans, reverse mortgages, refinancing investment properties. Ladies and gentlemen, are you prepared to really provide the experience that is going to win new business? Because if you're not, Matt's about to share with you exactly how to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to shred. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? As you heard in the intro, we have got a lot to talk about, but before we get into it, I've got the man himself, Matt Dowd, hanging out with me, VP of Product Management at Ice Mortgage Technology. Matt, good morning and welcome to the Shred Show.
Thanks, Josh. Super excited to be here and really appreciate you extending the offer. It's an honor to be here. Look forward to the discussion. I will do my best to keep up with your enthusiasm and your energy. You set a real high bar, so let's get into it.
Let's get right into it, Matt. I know you're going to match my energy, and what you lack in energy and enthusiasm, you make up for in information and data that we're about to share with all of our friends out in the mortgage industry. Before we dive into it, though, I've got to know, I love hearing people's story of how the heck did you get started in this industry, my friend?
Yeah, good question. I'll keep it quick, but like most of us, it's something that I never thought I was going to end up here. I spent a long time really on the consumer side in ad tech and customer experience as a whole in the digital space. I'm old enough when the internet was kind of a new thing and people looked at it like a little bit of voodoo. Through a company, an acquisition, I ended up about 9.5 years ago in the mortgage space, and here I am.
It's so funny. That's like, yep, here I am, by certain chance, this happened, or I was acquired, and now working with Ice Mortgage Technology. Yeah. What better place would you be at? The Ice team continues to lead innovation and data, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So let's kind of dive into it, because on our last episode of What Borrowers Want, we started to dive into the 2023 Borrower Insight Survey, the survey that Ice Mortgage Technology put out. Yeah. And some of these findings were literally, and we're going to be diving into them deeper and deeper as we get into this series, but one of these findings found that fewer than 1 in 10 borrowers want a fully digital experience, which to me, everybody's talking about AI and the digital experience and this and that. And some of them, sure, they like the convenience of the digital processes and services that are out there, but how can lenders in particular, how can they find that balance between delivering a streamlined high-tech experience while still maintaining that human connection, that human relationship during the process?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I love this question. And when you think about that stat, right? 1 in 10 wants digital. That's small. Like, I don't like those odds at all. If I'm a betting man. And to your point, you nailed it, Josh. Over the past years, there's been so much talk about the digital experience and what does it mean? And directionally, where are we going with that? And is it this push button mortgage? And like, it all sounds fantastic, but when you talk to the consumer, right, the borrower, at the end of the day, like, you got to deliver what they want. And only 1 in 10 of them really says, that's what I'm looking for, right? So do they want it the old way? No. Do they want all digital? No. So it's this hybrid approach. You really got to understand that. And let me just give you my perspective here. Like, digital's super important, right? And I think, there's a lot of talk about why it's important. It's going to reduce costs. It's going to create efficiencies and consistency. It's going to speed up the process and all that stuff. All super true statements, like, without a doubt, right? And if you look at most of those, it's lender benefit, which isn't a bad thing, right? But the experience part is the borrower. And, without the borrower, none of us are here today. And if they're saying if we don't want all digital, then, you got to hear what they're saying. I heard a quote a long time ago that it always resonated with me, that the consumer is the most perishable good out there, right? When you think about it, they can come and go, and there's so many choices. You get one, maybe two shots at them, but then they're gone, right? So, but they're also the most valuable commodity that we have. So you really need to understand what it is they're looking for and what it is they want, and how do you blend technology and human to provide that high touch experience, right? That kind of high tech, high touch experience. And unfortunately, I think for anyone listening to lenders out there, it's not a one size all approach. Not a one size all approach, right? We're all different. I'm a different person than you are, Josh, right? And at any given moment, any given day, what I'm looking for may change. And it's a lender's responsibility to be able to have the technology and the people to adapt and adjust to that, to guide that borrower along the journey. When you look at really from a digital perspective, what the borrowers are looking for, you can kind of hone it down into a couple areas where I think they're like, okay, digital makes sense for me here, right? Online application, I think 70% of those people are like, yeah, I like the concept of an online application. They want convenience, they want speed. So those things all have to be in play, but it's got to be continued through the process. So as you talk about high tech and high touch, I think you got to pull on that thread and say, what does that really mean? Our study showed that 26% of the borrowers said they wanted an equal blend of the traditional methods and the digital tools. So what does that mean? Where do they want it? When do they want it? At any given point in time. So I think it comes down to setting expectations. Like, you set expectations from the jump. And how do you do that? Like, you need to ask your borrower and ask your customer, how do you want to be communicated with? What are you looking for out of this experience? Instead of saying, hey, I'm an expert, I'm going to pull you on this journey. Today's consumers, regardless of the industry, is used to having a say or being heard and that person and listening, right? You're no longer a transaction. You're a person participating in this huge investment that they're about to undertake, right? Probably the biggest investment in their lifetime.
It is one of their biggest investments of their lifetime. And you because with so many borrowers wanting that combination, because again, with the data proves it, they want the high tech, but they want the high touch. And you've kind of alluded to this, is it the listening aspect? Where are you finding borrowers are wanting more of the human interaction? Where are they wanting the convenience of the online tool? Where do the two fit best?
Yeah. So I think from a technology point, like I said, there's a few areas where we see clearly they're looking for it. It comes to e-signing, right? And something's at the closing table, sure. The application itself, like all those, a high percentage, generally, not to get at each individual stat, but north of 45% of the borrowers are like, hey, we like digital here. I think that the human touch gets a little bit more subjective based on the borrower itself, right? You say you want an online application. True, right? Everybody wants it. But it comes down to knowing your borrower, right? When you look at the data, somebody who's gone through the transaction 4 or 5 times, like the stats show the majority of those people are like, I don't want to talk to anybody at that, right? Because I get it. I know all the questions. I know why you're answering, why you're asking for them. I'm happy to, provide you my income, my assets, whatever it may be. First time home buyer though, totally different story. So you're going to find that although they might like to start to fill out the form, they're going to run into questions real early in the process. And then throughout that, once they actually submit, like then the real work starts, right? We all think of it in the space. Okay, you're going to upload your docs. It's going to take us this much time to go through it. We're going to come back with questions. And, we know that inside and out. For a borrower, it's super confusing. So that's where I think, the human aspect has to come in, is right from the jump on the, once they get stuck on that application, you're going to see really quickly kind of their level of knowledge and their comfort. So you better be prepared throughout that process to step in and touch base with them and touch them on the human side, as frequently as they want. I think that ultimately consumers are going to get what they want. We can have our process. We can, this is how it works. But to my point earlier, they're perishable. And if you're not meeting their needs, they'll find someone else who does. The options are limitless out there. So I think that question, I mean, it's such a great question. I mean, I wish I could say, oh, you digital here, human here, digital here at that point. But man, like as humans, like we're not logical, right? At least not on the surface.
No.
Well, how do you ensure that? You're right, that you're engaging with them when they want and how they want.
Well, and I think that's just the key, Matt, is everybody's different. And that's why having the data, the insights that ICE Mortgage Technology has put out in this report and in this survey, like learning. Here's the one thing that drives me crazy in the industry, Matt, is loan officers. We have to start thinking outside of that box now. Mortgage advisors, even guides. That's what we're becoming, is because, like you said, everybody's a little bit different. The experience, you may have a first-time home buyer that's going to be very different than somebody who's bought. This is their 9th home. They've got investment property. Sure, they want it streamlined. You have to understand what is going to truly help them, especially if you're trying to, which we all want. We want that client for life, those future referrals, which we're going to talk about here in a sec, because I want to go down that road. But understanding the needs, the wants, the desires, because as you mentioned, buying a home's a big deal. Sometimes as mortgage pros, we forget that. So especially for a first-time home buyer, they're about to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, the biggest purchase they're ever going to make in their life. So understanding what's important to them. Again, there is no perfect. I'm sure as technology advances and as companies continue to understand human interaction better, sure, it's going to get better and better. But as for right now, there is no perfect answer. I love that you guys are like, there's no perfect like gel right now. We're getting very close. We're getting better at it, but there is no. And to this, I'm kind of interested in this because, according to the survey, there was only 1 in 3 reported having a great online experience. Why is that? And where do you think the current online experience is really falling short right now?
Yeah. Again, great question. And 1 in 3, 33%, right? Like as a business owner, if you're hearing that 33% of my folks really had a good experience, you got to move the needle, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to move the needle, especially with all the choices. And, if 66% of your people didn't have a great experience, what's the likelihood you're going to keep them coming back or even get a referral for that matter?
Right.
Right. Like I'm not happy. So, here's what I think that, an analogy is when you think about experience, right? So say you go to a nice restaurant, right? Or a great resort, right? The atmosphere can be great. The food can be wonderful. But if that server or that, the personnel at that resort aren't treating you well, your experience is not going to be good, right? It's the little things. The server comes up, hey, Josh, how can I help you? What do you like? Suddenly they build this like rapport with you. I mean, heck, you can go to a restaurant that the food may be marginal, but if the service is great, you're like, that was a fabulous experience. And really, what's the difference there? It's the people. It's how they treated you. They made you feel like you were important, like you were special, like you mattered, even though they may have 6 other tables waiting, right? Just like a loan officer's probably got, 7, 10 other people in the pipeline. It's their responsibility to be like, right now at this point in time, Josh, you matter most to me. And I'm going to listen to you, not just profess what's going to happen, right? Just because there's this process there, how's that going to work with you? So I think that's super critical when you talk about that. How do you move that needle from 33%? You flip the script. You want 66%, 70% of people saying that was the best experience ever. I mean, I would argue that a borrower would pay a slightly higher interest rate for an awesome experience and expectations that have been met versus like a lower rate. I mean, is it any good to say, yeah, I used this lender, they gave me a good rate, it was a crappy experience, right? You're not going to get referrals that way. So I think that's where you got to focus in on. And it comes down to knowing that what that person wants up front. Again, as I touched on earlier, there's this common assumption that the younger people want all digital. It's fundamentally not true. 51% of older borrowers actually want more digital.
That's crazy.
Right? But like I remember years ago when POS was really big, it was like, you have to have this fully digital experience because the millennials, all they're going to want is, digital. They're not ever going to want to talk to anybody. Right.
Yep, they want
No.
to use mobile. It's all digital. That's where everything is going. Matt, this analogy of a restaurant that you just used and having an experience, people are probably kind of shaking their heads. I think this is one of the best examples or analogies I've ever heard. And people are in the mortgage industry like, well, Josh, Matt, you can't compare a restaurant experience to a home buying experience. Of course you can, because we have a lot more restaurant experiences, resort experiences, and that's how the human brain is processed.
Yeah,
like that. And I think sometimes we overlook that. It's like, well, it's different. It's not, it's really not creating that experience, I 100% agree with you. And being in the mortgage industry as long as I have had, again, we're trying to offer the best to our consumers, best rates, products, things like that. But I have had clients work with me because of the experience, because of the advice, and being that advisor, being that long-term guide of like, hey, I'm not just helping you, Matt, buy this home. I'm helping you on your future opportunities of like, are we getting the interest rate? How are we using the equity in your home? How are we going to leverage it in the future? Yeah. So it's that type of experience where people are like, man, Matt knows exactly what he's talking about. Yes, maybe he's got a little bit higher interest rate than the guy down the street with this billboard, but I know I can rely on him. I know I can count on him. And that's something where technologies can't match right now.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, because you're right. People can shake their head and say that there's apples and oranges, and it's not, because an experience is fundamentally experience. The human brain is conditioned like, I enjoyed it, it was okay, or I didn't enjoy it, regardless of what that is. And experiences aren't usually one big thing. It's a combination, a series of these little things, as you mentioned when you were originating, tying all these little pieces together. That's what creates the experience. Right. And it can be in any aspect of life. And I think the other thing you touched on is, with the introduction of digital, I think we all need to be super thoughtful of an expectation that a borrower has up front of what digital means. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we all interact online with stuff every day. So you have an expectation. What's Matt's expectation? Well, my expectation, like, I get the mortgage industry, right? But my expectation would still be, if I call you up, Josh, as my originator, and I've already provided a bunch of information, know me. Don't ask me to repeat the information. Respond quickly, right? If I ping you, don't wait 24, 48 hours to get back to me, because my expectation with technology today is you can respond pretty quickly. Does it have to be instantly? No. But, if you're servicing me, or, I have a relationship with you and it's something this important to me, and I ask you a question and you wait 4, 5, 6 hours to get back to me, I'm going to be like, what's up? Right? Like that
100%.
time for me as a borrower, that 5 hours for you is nothing, right? You know this inside and out. You're like, man, if we move this in 5 hours, we're moving at lightning speed, or 2 days or 3 days. For me, that's an eternity, right? Oh. So I think we got to be like I say, you're in Utah, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Snowboard, skier, mountain bike.
Oh, dude, anything outdoors, love it. Snowboard. We wrapped up an epic season here in Utah with some amazing snow.
Yeah. So think about this again, tying back to experience or just a journey, right? Taking on a journey. I come out to visit you. I say, let's go snowboarding. Josh, you're like, all right, I'm in. You take me up on top of the mountain. You lay out the trail. You're going to, go right at this tree down there. You see those rocks, go left, but don't go right there, because there's a huge cliff, right? Or a bunch of rocks. You're better than me for sure. You get 3 or 4 minutes ahead of me. I'm lost and I'm freaking out. Uh-oh. What's on the other side of this tree, right? You're just chilling, wait for me to come around the corner. Finally, I do. That 3 minutes for you was nothing. You're just catching your wind, right? I was terrified. And as you go through the borrower experience, again, think about that. Again, silly analogy, but I think it's so on point, because I'm asking you, the originator, to help me make the biggest financial decision of my life. Huge commitment. Well, if I'm left to my own devices to imagine like what's happening because I haven't heard back from you, and you're like, the process is the process is the process, I'm freaking out. Now, you may have done a great job setting expectations for me on day 1, but we're in week 2 now. I've forgotten all that. So I think that communication piece, that touch, and that's where the tech and the human touch comes in, because you can leverage tech, but be relevant. Not just a
Ooh.
template email. Hey, Josh, I know you sent your docs 2 or 3 days ago. Here's what's happening. Don't worry. All's good. Whatever. Like I can take a sigh, a breath. I'll be back
100%.
to you in 2 days, Matt. You've just set my expectations. I'm breathing easy. What did that take you? 3 minutes, 2 minutes to send me a text or a call,
Exactly.
right?
And to Rob's point, Rob Palmier commented here, customer communication is key. And that's just it. And kind of as we go in this direction, and as we were alluding to, it comes to creating and tailoring an experience for each borrower, because Matt's different than Rob, than Josh, than everybody. How can technology in particular help lenders meet the borrowers in the preferred way they want to be contacted? Like, because there are so many ways to do it these days.
So many ways. And I think this is something we're actively working on at ICE Mortgage. But our philosophy is an open framework, if you will. Like we want to build the best platform possible, but there's lots of other great companies out there that do a lot of things. But if I'm running a lending shop, what I'm looking at is all of my technologies and saying, like, how can I create a surface, a communication surface, right? So not just this piece does X and this piece does Y. How can I create a connective surface that allows my borrower to be made aware of anything that's happening, right, within the process that should be relevant to them, right? Like that's how I look at technology. It's kind of like a bridge that allows them to just walk, gently and quietly across the landmass. That's from a technology. So you start piecing them together and saying, how do they all come together to create this surface area that allows the transparency, the communication, the efficiencies, all those great things that technology does. And it's a big task, right? But you got to be thinking holistically of your ecosystem versus like, I have a problem to solve today. And it may be you have a problem that's fundamental. So like we got to solve that today. But if you just solve that and don't think about, what's around the corner, I think that's where lenders run into this hodgepodge of technology. And you got, 5 different point solutions and there's 4 different interfaces and the data doesn't come back and forth. And now I got to ask the borrower to send stuff, right? Like so I mean, that's my take on it is you look at, how you leverage technology. Just the technology is a tool, right? And people talk a lot about automation, and automation is super important, but I like to think of it more like acceleration. How do we accelerate, right? Like I want to, the technology is just a tool to enable people. You still need the people, right? To move faster. We're not an automotive manufacturing facility here, right? Where a robot's going to come in or chatbots are going to come in and say, oh, okay, I don't need you to do a transmission anymore. Like that's not, mortgage needs people and always will because of the emotional, the emotional commitment that borrower is making. And you just got to nail that.
You make such a good point here. And what you just said, I hope everybody like that really hit with everybody, because it doesn't just end here. It always will. This process, this experience, yes, it's evolving, it's changing, but our goal isn't just for that borrower experience to end at the closing table. It's not like, hey, Matt got the deal done, perfect. Hope you're happy. On to the next one. No, like if you play the short game, you're going to get short results. If you play the long game, you're going to get the best results. So what advice, what guidance, even I don't even think advice is the best word. What guidance do you have for lenders and our mortgage professionals to help them really deliver that high tech yet human touch experience that is going to drive that repeat referral long-term business?
Yeah. I think you answered it for me, right? Are you playing the long game or the short game? Is that consumer to you a transaction, a means to an end to close them out and get your check and move on? Or are you really thinking about what's the long-term value of, if you will, of this consumer? And that's, if you look at it that way, you got to look beyond the transaction and what does it look like after they close? Like, are you doing the annual mortgage review with them? Are you sending them a birthday card? Are you keeping in front of them, valuable information? I can tell you, I've taken out in my life 5 mortgages, right? And that's not to mention a construction loan and some refis in between. Do you know how many people have ever kept in touch with me? That would be 0.
Really?
0 for me. That's true. Never like follow-up emails or, hey, how you doing? Like, and so I have used 5, and I'm in the mortgage business, Josh.
Sure.
I know peeps, right? And 0 people. After that transaction was done, I got the courtesy thank you letter. Oh, thank you. If if you have any referrals, send them my way.
Of course.
No one. I've never heard. And my last mortgage was only taken out 2 years ago. I've never heard from them again.
Okay, now, but I want to build on this just real quick. This is really interesting. So you're in the industry, you get that thank you letter. There's been no other communication. What do you do? Like, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm going to call Bob back. Like, oh, thanks for the letter, Bob. I appreciate like, it's just not there.
Yeah. So what I do, it's like, well, I guess if I'm ever going to refer someone, or if I'm ever going to go back into it, I'm going to call someone I know and say, here's what I'm looking to do, and start the process over. And, I think your question though is, how do you change that? Yes. I mean, and this is where technology fits in perfectly, right? Because you can't expect, the loan officer to remember all these clients, they've established relationships and do the right things and touch base when they should. Technology, through automation, you can send out the emails, you can send out text, and it's not just email. You got to keep that blend. Send a text, send an email, a reminder to make a phone call. So you're omni-channel communication, like you're a person, right? And that's just technology sending you a reminder. Hey, Josh, I closed Josh 6 months ago. Call him. Hey, Josh, how'd the move go? Y'all in your house yet? Is it everything you dreamt of or whatever? Like, have that conversation. A year, 2 years later, maybe they have kids. Oh, by the way, right? Hey, it was Sally's birthday. Happy birthday to her. Like those check-ins, that establishes the relationship, right? Like there's a quote by Maya Angelou I always thought was great, right? It's like, people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they'll always remember how they made you feel, right? So if you make me feel like I matter to you and I'm not just a transaction, you got me, right? You got me for life. Because look, I didn't like having to go find a new bank, a new lending institution, new loan officer to do this, every time. I wish. And by the way, almost every single person I dealt with told me like, oh, but I got you. Like I'll be at your kid's high school graduation. You know what I mean? Like we're going to be tight. Nope. Didn't happen. And that's a miss. And that's why I think you get this whole thing about the experience, right? If you take that survey and that transaction closed, and let's say that survey goes out a week, 2 weeks, or a month later, but you haven't done anything, like you're going to be like, I mean, right? Because you wanted the house, not the mortgage anyway. Yep. But yes, I think that's the piece where tech can help a ton.
Oh my gosh. That is exactly it. That is where tech can help. You mentioned something that I think omnipresent communication. I don't even know if you caught the use, like omnipresent. Be where they are, whether it's mobile, email, social media. Like there's so many places that you should be showing up for your consumers. And that's what a great way to wrap this up, Matt, because that's where technology comes in. That's where ICE Mortgage technology, that's where this survey, you guys have given us the data. You've given us the insights. We as lenders, we as mortgage professionals just need to go meet our consumers at that level and continue to provide. Matt, it's not hard either. Look at the transactions you've had. Even you as a mortgage professional, they were missed for you. How many other hundreds of thousands of consumers out there are having the same experience that you have? Ladies and gentlemen, you just have to be better than your competition. And the bar is fairly low. So go out there and make it happen. And you're going to, like, again, according to the survey, there's plenty of opportunity to come this next year.
Yeah. Meet them where they want, Josh. If they text you, text them back. If they call you, call them back.
It is that simple. What a great way to end it. Matt just gave you the secret of all secrets, ladies and gentlemen. Go there. This has been an absolutely brilliant show. Matt, I cannot thank you enough for coming and hanging out with me and sharing all the insights and the incredible expertise that you have. I really appreciate it. This has been incredibly insightful, man.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. And nice talking to you.
Always nice talking to you. It's always incredible having the ICE Mortgage Technology team here sharing the insights. And guys, if you want to check out the 2023 Borrower Insight Survey, we'll drop a link below because like we mentioned, it will continue to help guide you on this experience to really helping all of your clients have the best experience for them and their home buying journey. With that, as always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya.